I flew into Tokyo on fumes, 2 hours late and one step behind everyone else. My flight had been rerouted through Seoul, then held up in customs because someone packed a drone in their carry-on. No time to change, no time to breathe. I walked straight into the Takeda Tower in the same wrinkled navy suit I'd slept in, tie loose, coffee stain on my sleeve. The client team was already waiting. Press suits, fresh tea laid out, documents lined up in perfect symmetry like some kind of ritual. Every detail screamed control. Precision. My name's Mason Kruger. I'm 38, based in Chicago, and I'd spent the last 13 months shaping this $200 million logistics partnership with Takeda Integrated. I knew the names, the numbers, the pain points, the legal cracks. This deal was mine. And then Brian Tuck walked in beside me like he owned the air. New strategic lead, shipped over from corporate a month ago. Tall guy, maybe 45, white smile and hair gel, slicked back like he thought he was pitching to VCs in Palo Alto. He had this leather satchel that screamed money and wore enough cologne to kill a small dog. I nodded to Mr. Sato, Takeda's head of operations, bowed slightly. "Apologies for the delay," I said in Japanese. Before I could sit, Brian clapped his hands. "Let's dive in, team," he said loud enough to echo. "Big things coming. We're here to disrupt some outdated supply models." Then he looked right at Mr. Saito. "You ready, boss man?" I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me whole. Saito didn't move, just kept stirring his matcha like he hadn't heard a word. I stepped in, tried to right the ship. Our proposal reflects Takeda's tiered growth strategy in Japan and Southeast Asia, I said in clean Japanese, turning the focus back to actual substance. Brian cut across me. "Let's save the culture piece," he said, waving his hand. "We're not here to do tea ceremonies, we're here to talk numbers." The room went stone cold. Mr. Saito looked up, eyes empty but calculating. That was it. I saw the future in that moment. Not just this meeting, the deal, the months of work, all of it, burned. Brian smiled like nothing happened, leaned back in his chair like this was a TED Talk. Quick note. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I kept my hands flat on the table, fingers clenched so tight I could feel my pulse through my nails. Scene wasn't mine anymore, but I wasn't leaving it without a plan. I stood, bowed lightly to the Takeda team, and walked out of the room. My heart was hammering, but my hands didn't shake. Not yet. Out in the hallway, I didn't sit. I just stood against the wall like some ghost of the meeting still listening in. Inside, Brian's voice rolled on, casual and upbeat, like nothing seismic had just happened. I heard a slide click forward. "Market positioning," he said, all buzzwords and bullshit. He was giving my presentation with my deck, and he probably hadn't read half of it. I stared at the conference room door, frosted glass, polished wood handle. I could still see the shape of Mr. Sato seated straight, hands folded, eyes fixed forward. I'd built that relationship email by email, week after week, all through COVID and border closures and goddamn midnight calls. And Brian cut me out like I was furniture that didn't match the lobby. I wanted to go back in and say something, anything, but I didn't. A junior rep from Apex, Hannah something, stepped out 10 minutes later. She didn't say anything, just gave me a quick nervous glance like I was radioactive and kept walking. Then the door opened again. Brian came out with that same crocodile smile plastered on. No eye contact, not even a fake goodbye. Just walked past like I was a guy in his way at the airport. I followed him with my eyes. "You think you won something," I muttered under my breath. He didn't hear me. I waited another 30 seconds, took one slow breath, then walked back into the conference room. They were quiet, papers half folded, tea half drunk. No one moved. I looked directly at Mr. Saito, bowed again, slightly deeper this time. "I appreciate your time," I said in Japanese. "This development was unexpected. I will excuse myself so that Apex may continue with clarity." He nodded once, subtle but sharp. I turned and left without another word. But in that moment, that look from Saito, I felt something click, not pity, not sympathy. It was like he saw me in full for the first time. I walked down 5 floors before I realized I hadn't hit the elevator button, just kept moving. Past floors I used to visit on partnership builds. Past names on walls that I used to admire. By the time I hit the street, the wind off the bay slapped me hard enough to sober the adrenaline. I found a bench across the street, sat down, and stared up at the Taquita building. I didn't pull out my phone. I didn't rage text anyone. I just sat. I kept playing his words over and over in my head. Effective immediately. Structural shift. Like I was some hardware update. You don't survive corporate politics by blowing up. You survive by remembering, by taking names and knowing when to act. My jaw still hurt from how tight I'd clenched it in that room. Before I left the bench, I typed out a short email to the Apex admin team. Please confirm formal documentation regarding this morning's transition. No emotion, no threat, just a paper trail. Then I stood up and started walking. Not fast, not furious, just steady. Because Brian didn't know it yet, but he'd just built my launch pad, and I was going to bury him with it. The streets around the Taquita building were quiet, just the low hum of taxis and the occasional clatter of a bicycle chain skipping a gear. I didn't look back. Brian was probably still up there, beaming over his own PowerPoint, like he'd just outmaneuvered a grandmaster. But I wasn't in the game he thought I was in. 3 weeks earlier, I'd gotten an encrypted message from a managing partner at Moria Capital, midstream tech, green energy, Tokyo-based, discreet. They didn't ask for a resume, just a call. The email had been short, one sentence. If you ever decide to build instead of follow, we'd back it. I hadn't replied. Not then. I still thought Apex could be salvaged. Thought maybe Brian would fizzle out like the rest of the overpriced imports corporate kept rotating in. But now it was go time. I walked 3 blocks, past a ramen stand and a convenience store, to the Tokyo Bay Intercontinental. The lobby smelled like citrus polish and corporate silence. I slid into a corner booth at the lounge bar, ordered a black coffee, no sugar, and opened my laptop. I didn't hesitate. No second guessing. MK Integrations. I'd kept the LLC paperwork in draft for a month. Name picked, articles ready, Tokyo address placeholder loaded. All it needed was one click. I hit file. There it was, clean, quiet, mine. The email to Taquita's legal team took 15 minutes to write and 4 to revise. I didn't over-explain. Just one clean line after another, in Japanese and English. Subject, continue collaboration opportunity, MK Integrations. Should Takta remain interested in strategic autonomy within logistics modernization, I'd be honored to continue our discussions independently. No attachments, no logos. Just a Gmail, my initials, and my Tokyo burner number. I read it twice, then hit send. That was the first moment I felt my pulse drop. Not because I was calm, but because the decision was made. And when I make a decision, I don't undo it. I sat there nursing my coffee, watching raindrops scatter across the hotel windows, and pulled out my personal phone. 5 missed texts, 3 from corporate, 1 from HR, 1 unknown number, didn't answer a single one. I opened Signal instead and messaged a contact at Moria Capital. Me, filed, ready to move. Them, we'll be in touch soon. Quietly, that was it. I didn't need cheerleaders, I needed leverage. I looked down at the bottom of the LLC confirmation email. The timestamp read 3:26 PMJST. Less than 6 hours since Brian tossed me out like an office chair missing a wheel. Funny thing is, he never even asked if I had anything lined up. He just assumed I'd crawl away. That's the problem with guys like him. They confuse volume with control. They think whoever talks louder wins. But I'd built Apex's international accounts from the ground up, handshake by handshake, clause by clause. I knew the suppliers, the pain points, the contract loopholes. I didn't need to steal clients. I just had to make myself available. By dinner time, I was back in my hotel room, no lights on except the city bleeding in through the blinds. I sat at the desk, watching my inbox. At 7:42 p.m., Taquita's reply came in. We would like to continue discussions. Discretion appreciated. I closed the laptop, took a deep breath. Brian thought he'd shut a door, but all he really did was walk me right through it. I didn't respond to Taquita's email right away. When I finally replied, it was with the revised proposal. Same scope, same structure, same deliverables, but cleaner. The Apex contract had over 40 pages of bureaucratic padding. I cut it to 26, Added flexibility clauses, escalation terms tied to actual performance, not corporate fluff. And one key change: 12% success fee due at signing. No contingency, no milestones. Just cash wired the second they said yes. Takeda agreed without blinking. I didn't build a website. No launch party, no press, no fake quotes about entrepreneurial vision. Just a clean Gmail address, a PDF with MK integrations across the top, and a Japanese cell number that only buzzed after 7 p.m. That first week, the only people who knew I existed were 3 people at Takeda and a legal consultant in Nagoya who didn't ask questions. By the second week, things started leaking, not from me, from the work. Apex's sole account rep emailed me from her personal Gmail. She was in a bind. "We liked your structure better," she wrote. "Can we explore direct engagement?" A client from Munich who hadn't answered Apex calls in months suddenly replied to a calendar invite I didn't send. "Mason, we've been waiting. Please advise." Then came Jakarta. That one hit different. He was a mid-tier logistics partner. Smart guy, precise, difficult as hell. He'd gone cold 6 months ago, after Brian tried to push him into a digital transformation package he didn't need. Corporate assumed he'd gone dark. He emailed me directly. "Glad you're free. We trust you." That was all he wrote. No signature, no logo, just trust. I didn't chase any of them, never had to, because I knew every system they touched. I'd built them. I knew where the contracts were rigid, where the ops teams were frustrated, where the numbers didn't add up. I didn't pitch. I listened. Then I made their problems smaller. I ran everything through encrypted storage and burner tools. No cloud, no Slack, no interns. MK Integrations was just me, 2 local contractors on retainer, and a quiet back channel to Moria Capital if I ever needed extra teeth. By the end of that month, 5 firms had paused their Apex engagement for internal review. None of them said my name, but I didn't need them to. The Apex machine was leaking oil, and every drop was mine. Brian, I'm sure, thought I'd vanished, that I'd gone home to lick my wounds or take some bloated VP job at a competitor. He had no clue I was still sitting in Tokyo, working, building, responding to clients he thought he'd locked up. Every time my phone buzzed, it was another thread pulling loose. No loud moves, just tension. You could feel it in the gaps, the missed emails, the suddenly quiet WhatsApp chats. I had an old assistant at Apex, Carly, sharp, overworked, always 10 steps ahead. She texted me one night out of nowhere. "Carly, clients are asking for you." I keep hearing, "Where's Mason?" I didn't answer, but I thought you should know me. "Thanks. Don't respond. Just observe Carly." Understood. She knew better than to get involved, but the fact she reached out meant the cracks were showing. I wasn't poaching, I was recovering what was already mine, 1 client at a time, and I was just getting started. The 5th declined calendar invite came in on a Thursday morning. 48 hours, 5 unavailable replies, no cancellations, no explanations, just gone. 1 was from Jakarta, 2 from Seoul, 1 from a German supplier that never missed a call, and 1 from a team in Singapore that usually confirmed 10 minutes early. All of them went dark without a word. That afternoon, I heard Brian sent out a company-wide memo. Subject: "Let's get ahead of this." No one responded. A contact from Apex Ops forwarded it to me. No comment, just the screenshot. Brian sounded panicked but still cocky. Classic startup tone. "We're pivoting to a leaner client-facing model. Let's tighten our funnel and lock in renewals." He had no idea the leak wasn't at the funnel. It was at the foundation. And the guy they brought in to fix it? Tom Benton, from London. Guy looked good in a suit, I'll give him that. Problem was, he opened his first call with a Tokyo-based partner by mispronouncing the city's name. Not once, twice. "Tokyo," he said, like it rhymed with rodeo. No one corrected him. They just let him hang there. That same day, I got a tip from a former assistant, Bria. She'd left 3 months earlier, burned out and underpaid, but still looped into HR chatter through a friend. She called me after hours. "Mason, just so you know, HR's scrambling." "For what?" "Your exit paperwork. Nobody filed anything. No NDA, no non-compete, not even a termination form. They're freaking out. I couldn't help it." I laughed. They ghosted me mid-client call, Bria. I know. It's a mess. Legal's blaming Ops. Ops says you were reassigned, not fired. I pulled up my email archive while she talked, typed in, contract clarification. There it was, dated 3 weeks before Tokyo. Subject, just checking in about my contract post-title change. Body, wanted to confirm role transition and terms moving forward. No response. I'd followed up twice. Still nothing. Time-stamped, backed up, forwarded to my personal account. I had the full trail. Tell your friend in HR not to bother, I said. Why? Because there's nothing to file. They never officially let me go. I walked out of that room and into open-air silence. Jesus, she muttered. Not Jesus, just corporate incompetence. When legal finally realized they had no standing, they tried to come at me sideways, some vague IP concern. I sent them the archived emails with one line. I was never bound to begin with. That shut them up. Back inside Apex, I heard people stopped asking where I was, stopped talking about me altogether, not out of disrespect, out of fear, because I wasn't gone. I was still out there, still pulling strings they didn't even know existed. They kept refreshing dashboards, trying to explain why client sentiment was dropping and contracts were stalling. But none of the data could explain it, because this wasn't about data. I opened a new file on my desktop that night. One word at the top, leverage. Then I started listing names. The Tokyo deal closed under MK on a Tuesday morning. No champagne, no applause, just 3 signatures, a private wire confirmation, and silence. The wire came through clean. No questions, no notes, 12% success fee, paid. I didn't say a word to anyone, not even the contractors on standby. I just moved the funds into a separate account, set the files to offline backup, and shut the laptop like I was closing the lid on a coffin. By Thursday, Apex stock dipped 9%. They tried to play it off like a market hiccup, but everyone in the industry knew. Some intern must have talked, or maybe a supplier let it slip. Either way, the rumor hit Bloomberg by Friday morning. Takeda restructures vendor relations in Asia Pacific. No direct quotes, no confirmation, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. Then came the article, industry blog, but loud, sharp. Someone fed them the details. Headline, strategic breakdown. Apex's Asia exit fumbled at the top. My name was in the 3rd paragraph. Sources confirm Mason Kruger now operates independently as MK Integrations. Clients describe him as a fixer without the noise. No one said Brian's name, but the omission hit louder than any mention. I heard he went into full meltdown mode, stormed into PR, slammed the door, demanded they get in front of it. He wanted a press release, a crisis plan, a statement that would redirect blame, but no one wanted to touch it. HR panicked next. Word got out that my exit paperwork had never been filed, not fully, a half-finished form in a shared folder. No NDA, no clause enforcement. Legal confirmed it. They tried to spin it, said I'd slipped through due to rapid restructuring. The truth? Brian got cocky and sloppy. Thought cutting me out publicly would scare the rest into compliance. He underestimated how quiet I could be when I was working. Late that night, my burner rang. Tokyo number, unknown ID. I answered. Mason. The voice hit like gravel, deep, slow, used to boardrooms and poker tables. It was Martin Kane, original investor, Apex board, ghost in the machine. I assume you're aware of the article, he said. I am. You didn't leak it? No. Pause. You're smart not to. I didn't respond. He cleared his throat. I want to talk. Off the record, about. You always knew how to keep your mouth shut and your hands moving. That's rare. You sound like you're looking for a partner. I'm looking for someone who understands leverage. Another pause. Where are you? He asked. Tokyo. I'll be in Singapore by Sunday. Let's set a meet. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just hung up and stared at the phone. Martin Kane wasn't the type to chase. If he called, it meant one thing. He saw what was coming. And he. Back on Apex's side, internal meetings went dark. No updates, no explanations, just a cold freeze. I knew the rhythm. They were scrambling, trying to patch holes without admitting there was a leak. But this wasn't a leak. It was a controlled demolition. And I was the one holding the switch. They held the emergency board meeting in Singapore. Neutral ground, private conference room, no assistants, no PR. Just 7 people in tailored suits and one man sweating through his collar. Brian. He walked in first, all forced energy and fake urgency. "Let's be clear," he started. Mason went rogue. He took clients that were Apex property. He exploited inside knowledge for personal gain. Martin didn't even look up, just opened a slim black folder and slid it across the table. "This is your signature," he said. "You terminated him without cause. No documentation, no review, no process silence." Brian stared at the paper like he couldn't read his own handwriting. A board member on the far side, Charles, something, quiet but sharp, spoke up under his breath. "So, we left the vault open." And he walked out with the key. Brian's mouth twitched. He tried to pivot. "Look, we need to stop him," he said. "He's undermining—" "No," Martin cut in, calm, final. "He's building. You're the one who broke things." Another board member leaned back, arms crossed. "How many clients are we down this quarter?" Brian didn't answer. Martin looked at me. "You've been quiet." I kept my voice even. "Because I didn't come to explain. You all know what happened. You just didn't want to face it. You took Apex's model," Brian snapped, "and repackaged it." I looked straight at him. "No, I took the value. The part you ignored, the part I built." He threw his hands up. "You want credit? Fine, take credit. But this ends now." I leaned forward. "You ended it the second you spoke over me in that Tokyo room. They offered me a buyout right there. 7 figures, full NDA. Keep quiet, walk away, fade out." I didn't even blink. "I'm not looking for money," I said. "I'm looking for accountability." Brian scoffed. "What the hell does that even mean?" "It means I'm not backing down. Not until the truth sticks to your name, the way you tried to smear it on mine." Martin smirked. "You always did play the long game." I stood up, straightened my jacket. "Meeting's over." Then I walked out, leaving Brian holding a folder with his own signature and a table full of people finally seeing him for what he was. The next morning, I signed the biggest deal of my career. Takeda, exclusively with MK Integrations. No middlemen, no Apex baggage, no Brian. Triple the contract value I'd ever seen under their roof. Upfront retainer, performance tiers, private pipeline integration, and full operational autonomy. The pen barely touched the paper before the wire hit. There were no handshakes, just final terms, initials, and the quiet sound of a billion-dollar door locking behind me. By mid-afternoon, the press picked it up. New Asia-Pacific logistics firm, MK Integrations, lands billion-dollar portfolio. No quotes from me, just a sourced confirmation and a single detail about the Takeda partnership structure. Tight, clean, boring, if you didn't know the context. But the industry knew. Brian's name trended within the hour, just not the way he wanted. Fumble, outmaneuvered, unraveled from within. One tweet said it best. MK didn't break Apex. He peeled it. I didn't share it, didn't like it, didn't even log into LinkedIn, but I saw it. Back in Singapore, I watched the market slide. Apex stock tanked 18% before closing. Their board went silent. Internal Slack threads started leaking. Junior hires began posting vague, open to new opportunities banners like a silent SOS. I didn't need to say a word. I let the work speak. My name wasn't on billboards or podcasts. It was in the metadata, the invoices, the line items no one could delete, the kind of power that doesn't scream, it signs. I flew to Jakarta that weekend. Quiet trip, no itinerary. Just a corner suite and a window view of the skyline I used to pitch from. 2 firms met me, both mid-market, both burned by Apex's overpromising and underdelivering. One of them already had the termination drafted, just needed one thing: my signature. They laid the folder on the table. I flipped through it, page by page. No rush, no emotion, just checking for holes. The last page was blank except for one line. Authorized by Mason Kruger, MK Integrations. They handed me the pen. I held it. Let the pause linger. They waited, silent. Then I pressed it to the paper, steady, deliberate, and said the only thing that mattered, let's begin.